This week on Art on the Air, we continue with part 2 of our interview with musician, composer, recording engineer, producer, music publisher David Kowal, discussing more of his musical journey and sharing more of his music. Our spotlight is with Tim King of the LaPorte County Symphony Orchestra discussing their 4th of July concert at Fox Memorial Park at 7:30.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart.
Welcome. You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM and WVLP 103.1 FM, our weekly program covering the arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. I'm Larry Breckner of New Perspectives Photography, right alongside here with Esther Golden of The Nest in Michigan City.
Aloha, everyone.
We're your hosts for Art on the Air. Art on the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project Grant through South Shore Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Art on the Air is heard Friday at 11 a.m. and Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP 103.1 FM, streaming at WVLP.org, and every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our spotlight interviews are also heard Wednesdays on Lakeshore Public Radio. Information about Art on the Air is available on our website, breck.com/AOTA. That includes a complete show archive, spotlight interviews, plus our shows are available on multiple podcast platforms, including NPR One. Please like us on Facebook, Art on the Air, WVLP, for more information about upcoming shows and interviews. And we'd like to welcome back to Art on the Air Spotlight. And of course, he's been here with us many, many times before.
Our favorite person.
Yeah, he's one of our favorite guests. We're going to be talking about what's going on the 4th of July, especially in LaPorte, and tell us all about what's happening here. Tim King, welcome back to Art on the Air Spotlight.
Aloha, Tim.
Thank you both so much. Thank you. Well, we are going to be giving a concert on Monday, July the 4th, the actual holiday. And it's been a long time since the orchestra has done something on the 4th. About 6 or 7 months ago, Mayor Tom Dermody called me into his office. I was summoned.
Oh.
And he said, I would really want the orchestra to do a concert on the 4th. If you can find funding for the concert, I'll find funding for fireworks over Clear Lake, and we'll just make it a big deal. And so we were very fortunate. First Source Bank has come through for us, and they're going to be the sponsor. And they're enabling us to be able to give this concert for free to the public. So it will be at Fox Park, at the band shell at Fox Park on Truesdale Avenue in LaPorte. And again, it's free to the public. Starts at 7:30 Monday evening. And Carolyn Watson, our music director, will be conducting. She's coming in for that week, because the week after that, she goes up to Interlochen, and where she's going to be conducting for a couple of weeks there. So she's coming in the week before, and it just worked out really, really well. But she's put together a really nice program. Of course, we'll open with the Star Spangled Banner, and then we're going to do the Armed Forces Salute, which is a nod to all the various branches of the military, which is always a really moving situation.
Very.
But she's throwing in things like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars and Little Harry Potter. She's going to repeat a couple of pieces we did from the April concert and the Magnificent Seven. But we're also
all very rousing in their own way.
So, yeah. But we're going to have a couple of Hoosier Star folks on this concert with us. The youth winner, Joseph Giuliani, is going to be singing a piece that was made famous by Andrea Bocelli, and he does such a beautiful job on it. And then actually the second place winner of the adult, Kim Curtis, who did a piece called Stuff Like That There, which is from the movie For the Boys, the Bette Midler movie For the Boys. And she came in second place because our first place winner is presently performing on a cruise ship somewhere in the Atlantic or the Pacific. I can't remember which. That was Jaron Sampson. So Kim agreed to come in, and Kim gave a absolutely wonderful performance. So both of these folks are going to be singing with us on that concert. And then the plan is for us to finish by the time the fireworks start at 9:15. over Clear Lake.
Sounds like a really full
What an
evening.
evening.
Beautiful.
I think so. Fox Park is one of those places where you're better off giving a free concert because it's about a 24/7 access place. And so parking tends to be a little dicey, iffy. So I would encourage folks to come a little early. They will have the concession stands open from 7 to 9. I did find that out just today. And so folks, you might not get a parking space really close. So you might not, hopefully you don't mind walking a little bit, but it's a beautiful amphitheater setting. And so we're going to set the orchestra up on the stage and on the concrete pad in front of the stage and give this concert. And then, of course, the fireworks at the end. I didn't realize this, but one of the largest fireworks companies is located in the United States, is located in LaPorte.
Wow.
So that was a real surprise to me. So Mayor Dermody called them when we were in this meeting and said, we want you to do these fireworks. And the gentleman that owned the company said, now, Mayor, you understand that that's the biggest day we have all year. He said, we're going to be in all these other cities. And of course, Mayor Dermody he's the best at making you feel guilty. He said, you mean you're going to go all those other places and not give fireworks in your own hometown? So guess what? They're doing fireworks in their own hometown. So we're happy to have them. And we hope people will stick around and just kind of know that it might take us a little while to get out to your car afterwards over with. So don't plan on leaving really, really quickly because hopefully we'll have a lot of people. It might take a little while to get out of there.
That's fantastic. Well, you have some news about your music director that came in and tell us a little bit about that. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, well, she's kind of been sitting on this for a little while until everything was, all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. But she's been appointed the new director of orchestras at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, which is considered one of the top programs in the country, actually. And she's really, really excited about it. And on top of that, they gave her automatic tenure, which is almost unheard of. You guys know that. I mean, in the college world. So she starts in August. And what I'm excited about is that she's going to be closer to us. So, it's only going to be about a 3-hour drive for her to come to LaPorte. In the past, even though she was Kansas City, or Lawrence, actually, at University of Kansas, she would have to fly to Dallas to get to South Bend. And it was almost like an all-day trip for her to do this. So by the time she got to Tuesday evening rehearsal, she was almost wiped out. Of course, she always takes things in stride and she never complains. That's the way Carolyn is. But she's really excited to be closer to us. And she's going to be it's a much larger program. She has 3 graduate assistants and this huge doctoral program that she's going to be over. So it's a wonderful, wonderful educational professional move up for her.
Very good. Hey, we've about a minute left. You also have, and we'll be coming back to visit this, the Hoosier Star. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll recap what's coming on 4th of July.
Ticket availability.
Well, yes. Well, as I said, 4th of July will be free, and we'll have our winners from last year singing. But Hoosier Star this year is going to be Saturday, September the 17th. Tickets will go on sale July 1 on our website, lcso.net, and they're $15 for adults in the balcony, $5 for children 12 and under. And again, our music director, Carolyn Watson, this will be her first Hoosier Star. And we have a wonderful set of programs, but we're going to do something a little different this year. The adults are going to go first, and the youth are going to go last this time because we think that's going to be actually a better build-up.
That sounds great. Well, Tim, thank you so much for coming on Art in the Air Spotlight. Tim King, the executive director for that wonderful organization. And remember, July 4th, 7:30, Fox Memorial Park at the Amphitheater, and you can hear a wonderful concert. Tim, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you both so much. Thank you.
You're listening to Art on the Air, WVLP 103.1 FM, and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM.
are happy to welcome back to Art on the Air David Kowal. Once was not enough, as everyone wanted to hear the rest of David's varied experience as a musician, composer, recording engineer, producer, and music publisher. This first segment was on June 12th, 2022. Give it a listen. His life has evolved and revolved around music. Fortunate that his passion is also his career. Currently, David is busy writing music for a variety of television production companies and just released a new album, A Different Blue. David, thank you for indulging our curiosity and joining Larry and I on Art on the Air. Aloha again.
Aloha again. It's great to be back. I appreciate it.
Well, David, we kind of left you so we don't have to talk about like what we usually do, how you got from where you were to where you are now. We just wanted to continue your story, and I guess we last left you in London. And so tell us about how we progressed there. And we also want to share some music with our audience as we move along here, and we'll set that up. But tell us about where we left off in our last interview.
One of the big influences I talked about the last time was my high school band director, James Lagoon, who, by the way, just Facebook friended me. I haven't talked to him in a long time, so I can't wait to sort of fill him in on what I've been up to. He had brought Maynard Ferguson, Stan Kenton, Woody Herman to our high school for clinics for us young musicians to really see how it's really done. And the upshot of that was we ended up in the Anglo International Festival of Music and participated in this contest for high school jazz bands in Europe. And one of the stops along the way, after we landed in Amsterdam, we drove on a bus from Amsterdam, broke down at the border in France, had to wait 2 hours on the side of the road for another bus to come by, ended up in Paris where we performed for lunch on the Eiffel Tower. So, here we are, these high school kids playing on the second level in the restaurant on the Eiffel Tower. And I've got some great pictures of Paris in the background and us high school kids doing the best we can with the jazz tunes that we were playing. So that was just a really great experience. And I think it's one of the sort of signposts along the way that kept pushing me in that direction of saying, music really is going to be your life, isn't it? I mean, you're 17 or 18 years old and having an experience like that, it does kind of stick with you. And I'm just very, very lucky and blessed that, my parents supported me the way they did, and I continued the journey. So, I think after that, it was Boston, my studio in Boston, and lots of clients there, working for everybody. Had some really interesting experiences in Boston. Had outside producers come in and use the studio a lot. One of the most amazing people I met was Jimmy Miller, who had produced Traffic, and he produced a lot of the Stone stuff. He's the guy that played drums on You Can't Always Get What You Want. He's like one of my heroes. I walked in one day and he's standing at the coffee machine. He's like, I can't figure this out. I'll make you some coffee. So I'm making coffee for Jimmy Miller, and we're talking about music. And it's like, life doesn't really get much better than that. So that was just a really, one of those like little things that happened along the way in Boston. And had some other great experiences too. One of my passions is car racing. I haven't missed an Indy 500 since 1966. And it's
I love it too.
I think it's one of the most amazing things in the world. And we get so much technology for our consumer cars from those folks, So many safety things came out of the development of those cars. Anyway, I was working for this client in Boston, Bob Sheriff, and he had a project that he was doing for Computer Vision. Computer Vision was a CAD/CAM company at the time. And Roger Penske of the Penske racing team was the first racing team to use CAD/CAM technology to design a race car. So the upshot was he shot a lot of Penske racing at the Indy 500 track, which turned into a documentary on the Penske racing family. So I got to score the music to this wonderful documentary on Penske that's still running at Indy in the gallery there, which was just, to me, is like Paul Page, the narrator for the Indy 500, came into the studio. Rick Mears, a 4-time Indy winner, came in and interviewed him, and it was just a great experience. So, those are two sort of examples of just like the really wonderful things that have happened along the way by choosing to follow that career in music. Boston at the time was just a very thriving time in the 80s, but at the end of the 80s, things got economically very bad. There was a big business downturn. The stock market crashed at the end of the 80s. And a lot of my clients just stopped doing business. They laid off a lot of people. And it was time to sort of fold that business and move on. So my business manager at the time, who would soon become my wife, and I decided, you know what? Wait, maybe we should just like try something completely new. Let's go to London. So that's what we did. We got married in October and went to London in December, and never looked back. We were really never going to look back. We applied for a work visa, to be an artist worker in London. You can get a 4-year artist visa if you're a writer, or a composer, or an artist. And had the interview, went there, bought our one-way tickets, landed, got through customs, the whole bit, and went to the Home Office and said, well, I'm here. I applied for this visa. And this wonderful English gentleman, this British guy, just looked at me and goes, that's real nice, but that's just not going to happen. So we're going to give you a 6-month visa and you can't work. So hopefully you have enough money to survive on. So that led, of course, to the discussion of, we're here. we kind of have paid rent for 2 months in a place ahead of time, sight unseen. We need to figure this out. So we both got jobs working under the table. I worked in a recording studio where I met a guy named Mattia Clifford, and we became lifelong friends, like in a heartbeat. He was a hip hop artist at the time, working in London, hip hop underground in the late 80s. And we used to do all night sessions in the studio in central London. And, it was amazing because without these guys, they pay me in cash every day. And everybody else that was working there was an expat from somewhere. I was working with a guy from Sweden, a guy from Germany, and a guy from Italy. And the 2 owners were from Britain. So it was just one of those, things that you do that you say, fine, let's do it. And Barbara, she worked in a restaurant. She worked she worked an Irish bar. She worked at the bar in an Irish bar for a while. And then she also worked as what do they call them? Not a bar maid or barista, but someone who helped the other waitress and stuff like that. Anyway, it was just, we basically just said, let's just turn this into a 6-month honeymoon and then see what happens. So out of London came this desire to get back into writing songs. Because in Boston, I had written music for clients. At one point, I looked at the piano, and I said, I got this great reconditioned Steinway, and I hadn't played it at all for my own thing, probably for about 2 years. I had always been working, writing music for clients and all that kind of stuff. And it was wonderful, but it wasn't feeding that part of me that was making the rest of it possible. I was kind of getting drained. So London was a great rebirth for all that. I started writing songs again and deciding what to do next. And as I went through that story, and that sort of looking back on things that happened, I realized that really was the beginning of what's led to everything now. And the journey then just continued. We stayed in London for about 6 months, and then my dad got very ill, and kind of needed to be back near home, and home for me was Pittsburgh. So we went from Boston to London to Pittsburgh. So it was a bit of a culture shock because, you go from a city like London to Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh was wonderful to me. I started writing music for clients there and ended up writing for, I did the Pittsburgh Penguins theme song. The Pittsburgh Steelers heard that, so they had me do their theme song. I did work for Alcoa and Westinghouse and basically everybody that you could do it. But after about 3 years, what happened was, well, you did all this great stuff, but they're not going to have another theme anytime soon. It's a wonderful market, but there's only 3 composers here. And if you really, really want to see what you're made of, you need to go one of 2 places, New York City or Los Angeles. So we had lived in cold weather all our lives. We had sort of looked at LA peripherally. And so one day in Pittsburgh, we just decided, well, let's just go to LA. So we planned the trip in 30 days, put everything in the 1979 Chevy Caprice that I ended up getting from my dad. And it was the last car he bought new in 79. So we loaded that puppy, literally took the back seat out so we'd have more room for our furniture and our 2 cats. And drove cross country, to L.A.
Yeah, no visas needed this time.
No visas needed this time. And there's a lot of jokes about that, but no visas needed this time. And ended up in Los Angeles at this motel right in Westwood near UCLA, where we met Henry and Robert James, who were the managers. Now, what's interesting about that is these guys, they were originally from Dublin, New Hampshire, which is right near where Peterborough is. And they were really great to us. We rented this motel room for 3 weeks. I literally did 2 soundtracks out of the motel room. And we were driving everywhere trying to find a place to live in LA. And we kept coming back to, well, this is really nice. It's kind of centrally located. We can get everywhere. It's near UCLA. Barbara was thinking of taking some courses there. And I asked them, do you guys know of any place around here where we could rent an apartment? They said, sure, next door. We manage these 3 buildings. So we literally moved across the parking lot. It was the shortest move we ever did from our motel room into this great apartment where we lived for about 9 years. And then during that time, I started doing a lot of work for some of the major folks. I did some work for HBO. I did some work for Fox, TV shows, movies, stuff like that. And just started building the career, So one of the things that I came back with was this germ of a song that I had started way back in Boston in the early 80s called Where Are You Now? And just started working on it again. And eventually I would continue working on it for many, many years because it wasn't happening. I mean, songwriting is an interesting thing. You can sit down and sometimes they just pour right out and the song's complete, like in 5 minutes. Sometimes they take a long time. So Where Are You Now morphed into Where We Are Now because during my time in LA, I hooked up with a group called the Berklee College of Music LA Songwriters Group. It was a group of songwriters that get together once a month on the last Monday of the month to share songs, workshop songs, and stuff like that. So I joined these guys. Bruce is the person that runs that, Bruce Garnett, and he was very supportive and encouraging about folks coming in and playing their songs, and they give great advice and just their take on it because you need the objectivity, right? So I played this song for them. And one of the suggestions was, why you? What you're really saying is we. Where are we now? Because it's about this generation, the 60s, 70s generation that said, we've got all the answers. We want peace in the world. We don't want any more wars. We don't want any more violence. We want equality. We want all these wonderful things. And I was big time part of that. And as I was looking around in the 1990s and then the 2000s, and literally this group I belonged to morphed into me moving all the way to Peterborough, and I was doing a Zoom session because they still do it via Zoom because of COVID, and it was actually over a Zoom session while I was still in Peterborough that the bridge and the idea to change that lyric finally morphed. So the long story of that is Where Are We Now is now a finished song, and it's part of a musical that I'm working on called Boomers that talks about what happened, like what are we doing, how do we get back on track, how do we get the alt-right and the alt-left stop screaming and just get back to that kind of place where everybody just wants to have what they have, be happy, and not get in anybody else's face and just let people be who they are. Like, what happened to that? So that's kind of what the song's about. And
Maybe we should listen to that.
Let's take a listen right now.
I'm sitting here playing my piano, waiting for a moment to call my own. I'm sitting here thinking about you and me, and promises that we made. We were gonna change the world, we were gonna make it right. Woodstock promises, aquarium delight. Where are we now? The people that said we're gonna change the world. Where are we now? Did we give up? I think that's what I heard. Began for us way back in '69. We started off on a trip to the moon. Nixon won the votes, but Hendrix ruled our hearts. Does it seem so long ago? We were gonna change the world, we were gonna make it right. Woodstock promises, aquarium delight. Where are we now? The people that said we're gonna change the world. Where are we now? Did we give up? I think that's what I heard. San Francisco, do we still wear sunflowers in our hair? We were gonna change the world, we were gonna make it right. Woodstock promises, aquarium delight. Where are we now? The people that said we're gonna change the world. Where are we now? Did we give up? I think that's what I heard. Oh, where are we now? The people that said we're gonna change the world. Oh, where are we now? Tell me, where did we go?
And we're back from Where Are We Now? David Kowal, beautiful song, and you're going to be in the musical Boomer someday, I guess.
Yeah.
We hope. Yeah, actually, I've been talking to someone you know, Ms. Michelle, about like working on that. So she's excited. We might take on that as a project together.
A co-project.
I want to mention that Greg Whipple is singing that. Greg Whipple's a studio session singer that I met in L.A., and he's just got this amazing angelic voice. So I hope you enjoyed that too. But I just want to give a shout out to Greg on that.
You're listening to Art on the Air with our guest David Kowal on WVLP 103.1 FM and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM. You do a lot of promo stuff that we talked about, and one of them, you gave us just a short sample of Running in the Woods. Tell us a little bit about that and how that came together.
Well, Running in the Woods came about. It's one of the more current things I've done. It was right before COVID, and I had just You demo when you're a composer in that world. You're constantly sending stuff out and demoing, and you're constantly listening to what's on the air. And of course, as you know, in the last 10 years, but really in the last 5 years, the industry has exploded in terms of content. If you want to watch a movie on Netflix in any genre, you can find that genre and find 80 of those movies. It's just incredible. Well, all those movies need music. So there's such a wonderful opportunity for composers to, get their music out there. That's a double-edged sword, of course, because there's so much content. There are a lot more composers vying for that placements and trying to get their stuff in the show. So you have to really listen all the time and try to stay current. So Running in the Woods came about. I was listening to, I was watching, Chicago PD, Law and Order, a lot of those sort of like mainstream shows, and just really honing in on what they were doing with the music, and realized that there are so many cues in these shows, sometimes 100, 150 pieces of music, and a lot of them are only 18 seconds, 25, 40 seconds long. So I'm thinking to myself, well, so if you're doing a weekly show and you've got maybe a team or just 2 or 3 composers or just one person, that's a lot of content to produce every week. So I challenged myself to say, well, let me do 25 finished cues in an hour and a half or 2 hours and see if I can do it. Because I was doing the math on it. It's like if you have your basic 60 or 80 hour week, you've got to be able to do that much stuff and deliver it on time and sounding the way it's supposed to sound, right? So Running in the Woods came about as that. So basically it's available now for licensing, and I'm pitching it to many different shows, and it's just another one of those songs along the way. It's an instrumental, and it's kind of scary. It's designed to sort of be like a tension release kind of thing, and give it a listen. Let's see what you think.
And here it is, Running in the Woods. That was Running in the Woods, available for licensing for any video, television, and such. You can get that from David Kowal.
Yeah, it was exciting. It was kind of like I felt like I was in Hunger Games in the woods or something at first, and then it changed a bit. It was really exciting.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I had someone. I pitched it to a group I belong to called the Sync Report. It's a Sunday afternoon podcast on Clubhouse, and the first thing that one of the guys said, "That's you must have a classical background. It sounds like the mad professor at work or something like that." And it's like, yeah, I have a classical background, but this was like out of a place that was like, how scary can I make it? So yeah,
it's definitely right from the start. You get that like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
How difficult is that? And you talked a little bit about that. And watching television shows, they a lot of times they have the whole music, but then actually music editing, putting in the same things every week. They don't compose necessarily new things for it, but they take themes that they have and put them in at different points. And
there's so many ways that this production gets done. You can. I know one of my musicians that I use is a percussionist, Scott Bredman. He plays percussion on all my stuff. He's an amazing player. He plays on a lot of television shows, and one of the composers he works with, they go in 3 or 4 days. They'll do 3 or 4 days of recording for the season, and then they give all those tracks, everything they record, to the music editors, who then take all those tracks and piece it together any way they want to make work in the show. So that's like a hybrid of like creation and then music. There's composers and creators. There's also songwriters that get their stuff licensed. And out of both of those groups, that gets fed to a music supervisor who then feeds that to the production team on the show, which include music editors and music mixers. So there's a wonderful flow of that creativity. So by the time it actually gets on the air, there's enough really smart people that have heard it that pretty much what you hear and see is there for a reason, because everybody agreed that works. And if you have that many different people saying yes, you're probably going to get a yes from the public when they hear it. Which is why you hear this stuff. Most people don't listen to it, watch a TV show and go, I really didn't like that music. I mean, most of the time, if you did your job right instrumentally in either a TV show or a movie, you don't even notice the music.
Right.
You're not supposed to. It's supposed to support the dialogue, and just like the sound effects. If you walk away from a movie saying those sound effects are great, I don't think the writer's going to be happy.
No.
I mean, or the actors. It's like, wow, did you see the way Bruce Willis cringed when that explosion went off? It was a great explosion. It's like you don't hear that. You know. So, and it's the same thing as now. There are obviously exceptions. I mean, you can't look at anything that John Williams or Jerry Goldsmith or James Newton Howard or James Horner, a lot of the Alan Silvestri, Mark Isham, these amazing composers where they're so singular in their Rachel Portman, there's a lot of they have a sound, they have their and you hear it, and so you walk away from the movie saying, "Wow, I really love that theme," but at the same time, when you think about that music, you see the movie. And that's just something very special. Like you can't hear, the Jaws thing, and not think Jaws. You hear the music, you're automatically in the water with the shark,
Yeah, no kidding.
So, I mean, that's just,
Well, so then on the flip side of that, so you're talking about music within something, but what about the theme music that you want to be memorable?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes those are two different people. Very rarely does the person who writes the music, for the theme, end up really doing all the music for the show, for the underscore. Yeah, mostly because if you've got over 100 or 150 cues, not one person can't do that. You've got a team of writers. The best example of that is Hans Zimmer. He's got a team of writers that work with him on everything, and there's 5 or 6 guys working there that help. I mean, he writes the stuff, but then other people. It's the same thing if you think about an orchestrator in the old classic way of doing a film score. Let's say John Williams or Jerry Goldsmith would write a score. They do a lot of their own orchestrations, but at the same time, there's a whole lot of people that don't do that. They write beautiful music, but they have orchestrators. Like Danny Elfman. He doesn't orchestrate a lot of his stuff. He had orchestrators work for him. James Horner had an orchestrator. And so, you get that help from someone else, that skill set that you just don't have time for. You're writing the really important stuff, so you do have to have that team that's going to write that. And then so a lot of times too, folks don't always conduct their own scores. They want to be in the control room, so there's a conductor that gets involved, and that completely changes how the thing's going to sound, because the conductor is the person bringing that music alive in a symphonic situation, in a classic scoring situation. Most of the time these days, we're all that. The composer's all that.
Right.
Like you mentioned, Larry, you mentioned like how do you come up with all the ideas? How do you produce it? It's like, well, I might have in my sample library probably 3 or 4 different symphony orchestras that I can draw on. I've got 50,000 sounds of every kind of weird hip-hop rock thing. I've got guitars behind me that I'll play my own stuff, put it through something, make it sound different. And so it just becomes one person doing all this, which, is a lot of fun, but at the same time, unless you're really, really, really being objective about what you're doing, you can lose sight of it and then just go off the rails quickly. So, that's where all those other folks come in handy. It's like you might send something to your music editor, and the music editor is going to say, it's close, but I'm looking at the video of what the scene is, and let me send you that, and maybe you could do something different at measure 22 or whatever. And so those, it's just like a screenwriter getting notes on a screenplay,
Sure.
or an actor, getting notes after they've just done a performance. Like the director's always going to say, well, that was great, but. So it's the same thing. It's just kind of in a weird, different way.
And so how did you work with Pentatonics then?
I didn't work with Pentatonics. I was basically waxing poetic about my teaching days in Los Angeles. And one of my former students, Ben Bram, went on to be the producer of Pentatonics. And I was talking about how proud I was of that. Another student went on to do, he was Andrew Resnick. He's the music director for King and I and the Cher Show on Broadway before COVID hit. So
when you collaborated with Michelle on Season of Light, which we're going to take a listen to, how does that collaboration work?
Well, that's actually a result of me going to an online music conference and going back to this idea of, if music's your career, then do it. So there was this opportunity to go to a live Zoom open mic. So I went to this live Zoom open mic, and everybody got to play a song. So I played a song, and up in the chat is this person I never met before, Michelle Schaefer, saying, "I love that song. Love your voice. Let's talk." I said, "Sure, let's talk. What do you want to talk about?" She goes, "Well, let's talk about writing. I'd love to maybe write with you." So that's how it happened. I met her. We've yet to meet in person. We've had. So we got together and said, "Well, let's." When I get together to write a song, I kind of like to have a reason to do it. It's like, why are we writing this song? So we knew that we had an opportunity with enough lead time to write some holiday songs for either shows that are being produced, movies that might be produced, Hallmark stuff that's being produced right now. They're going to be looking for music between now and the end of July. So we figured we would have enough time to write a song. So we talked about what we want to write about. We wrote all the lyrics. She went away and wrote lyrics. I went away and wrote lyrics. We came back. We combined them. We realized we had two songs because both of them were just a little bit along the same themes, but just a little different. So we've created two Christmas songs. This is the first one that we've produced, and it's called Season of Light. And she did a great, awesome job on the vocals. And I just think that when I heard what she was doing vocally, I said, I kind of want to just produce this as like a old school, almost like a Nelson Riddle under Frank Sinatra kind of orchestral arrangement under your voice. And I kind of went all the way, pulled out all the stops on it in terms of that kind of arrangement. And she's in love with it. I think it's a fantastic song, and I think it's the next great Christmas song ever written. So
you're here.
Well, let's take a listen to it. David Kowal's Season of Light with Michelle Schaefer.
Traditions may vary. In our hearts, we all carry a treasure trove of joy and laughter. In this season of light, there'll be magic all night. Our hearts will take flight because love fills this season of light. Baby swallowed in the manger, protected from the cold. Do we need the wise man to tell us what we know? Faith and hope and love is what we need to circle round the globe on this Christmas in the season of light. Little ones wide awake, up early at daybreak to see their stockings filled, an empty plate, those cookies gone. In this season of light, there'll be magic all night. Our hearts will take flight because love fills this season. Love fills this season. Love fills this season of light.
And that was Season of Light, the new Christmas song that will be part of your life, I hope, in the future. Michelle Schaefer on the vocal there with David Kowal's music.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, and I want to make clear to everybody listening, Michelle and I were the co-authors. We both wrote that too. So she's not only the singer, but she's also one of the writers. So I like to keep that, because I think she's got a lot of stuff going on, and we're having a great time writing. So.
And we featured Michelle on the show and had her actually when we did it in the studio, so we're well aware of Michelle and everything. You're listening to Art on the Air with our guest David Kowal on WVLP 103.1 FM and on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM. Well, we're getting close to the end here, and we have one more song. I want you to set that up for us before we have to depart. And man, this segment, having a second segment, is going real fast here, Dave.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we're back in London again. Is this where you?
Yeah, we're back in London, and it's going to be London to Peterborough is the way this is going to go. It's going to be bzz, 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 bzz. So basically, Mattia, who I met within a couple weeks of being in London. Just a real quick point. When you move to England, don't move in December because nothing happens until the end of January. So anyway, I met Mattia, and we just became lifelong friends. We stayed friends. We stayed in touch all this time. So I reached out to him 2 or 3 years ago when I was working in this. I was still in LA at the time, but I said, I've got this song. It's got this weird kind of quirky thing, but I really think it needs lyrics. It needs your voice, and it's basically about summertime. So it's originally written as an instrumental, but I really, really, really want to include you in this. And so the genesis of the song was, it's just a song about enjoying summer. It's like walking in the park, going to the beach, having fun with friends, just hanging out. And the plan was to release it in 2020, but then COVID hit. So there was nothing I could do with the song until now, because we had to wait 2 years to do anything with it because no one was going out and walking in the park and doing any of that stuff. Everyone was like, oh, we got to have a mask on and stay home. So that thankfully is ending slowly. And I think this summer is going to be a great summer. So I figured, well, why not close out the show, or at least feature this as the last song as just something fun that everybody can just smile about. And I hope Mattia makes you smile. So he's my brother, and a shout out to him. Mattia, when you hear this, I hope you enjoy it.
This song is Badadu.
Badadu, and we'd like to thank you for being on Art in the Air. And we're going to listen to that as our playout song. David Kowal, you can find him at David Kowal Music, and we have a link on our website. They'll take you right to it. Thank you so much for being on Art in the Air, and we're going to listen to Badadu here.
Thank you, David.
Thank you both very much. I look forward to seeing you guys again.
Are you ready for summer? Such a beautiful summer. Long walks in the evenings, laughing and joyous. Ain't no worries, nobody's in a hurry. Smiling faces all around. Are you ready for summer? Ba ba da doo, ba ba da doo, ba ba da doo. Just enjoy your life. To try something new. Live all your dreams. Whatever makes you happy, that's what you should do. We'll go walking in the park. Are you ready for summer? Ba ba da doo, ba ba da doo, ba ba da doo. Come on. Beautiful summer. Let's groove it. Summer, come on. Let's move it. Come on. Are you ready for summer? Beautiful summer. Let's move it. Summer. Let's move it. Come on. Are you ready for summer? Such a beautiful summer. Long walks in the evenings, laughing and joyous. Smiling faces all around. Are you ready for summer? Ba ba da doo, ba ba da doo, ba ba da doo. Summer.
We'd like to thank our guest this week on Art on the Air, our weekly program covering the arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. Art on the Air is heard Friday at 11 a.m. and Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP 103.1 FM, streaming live at WVLP.org, and every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our Spotlight interviews are also heard every Wednesday on Lakeshore Public Radio. Thanks to Tom Maloney, Vice President of Radio Operations for Lakeshore Public Radio, and Greg Kovach, WVLP's station manager. Our theme music is by Billy Foster with a vocal by Renee Foster. Art in the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project Grant through South Shore Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. We would like to thank our current supporters and underwriters, which include Regional Art Patron Mary Levan and Walt Bredinger of Paragon Investments. So we may continue to bring you Art on the Air. We rely on you, our listeners and underwriters, for ongoing financial support. If you're looking to support Art on the Air, we have information on our website at breck.com/AOTA, where you can find out how to become a supporter or underwriter of our program in whatever amount you are able. And like I say every week, don't give till it hurts. Give till it feels good. You'll feel so good about supporting Art on the Air. If you're interested in being a guest or sending us information about your arts-related event or exhibit, please email us at aota@breck.com. That's aota@breck.com, or contact us through our Facebook page. Your hosts were Larry Breckner and Esther Golden, and we invite you back next week for another episode of Art on the Air.
Aloha, everyone. Have a splendid week.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the Air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the Air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the